What is up, New York? Welcome back to another episode of New York State of Sports here on IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all that is sports. Ricky K back with you, episode 61. And what an episode we have for you. We've got the Yankees going to the World Series for the first time since 2009. We'll look back at a memorable ALCS where we said the Stars had to deliver, and they delivered in a big way. They have a title to celebrate. The Liberty win their first WNBA championship in the 28 years of their franchise. A memorable Game 5 last night that you might have missed what the Mets and Jets were going on. We'll talk about the legacy of the Liberty championship leaves behind. The Mets season comes to an end in LA. You shouldn't hang your head over it. A memorable year, I'll talk about that, and a memorable experience I had with one of our own at one of the games over the weekend. We'll talk the Giants laying an egg against Saquon and the Eagles. The Jets losing 4 in a row, and even though Hassan Reddick is back, is it a little bit too late? Can the Jets turn this season around and what has been a dumpster fire of the year? The MLS playoffs get underway this weekend. Both local teams are in. We'll look ahead to that matchup. The Knicks start on Tuesday against the Celtics. They lose a key player for the beginning of the season. The locals in the NHL are playing pretty well. Dive into that. Army still undefeated. Syracuse, a big game on Thursday. Rutgers loses again. We've got so much to dive into. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too. Stay tuned. Coming up next, New York State of Sports, IE Sports Radio. We'll see you in just a minute. And of course, welcome back. IE Sports Radio here at New York State of Sports on IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all this sports. Ricky K here with you once again. There's just so much New York sports here going on. I think that's what makes this show great. We've got championships to look forward to, a championship to celebrate. So many different things. All the big sports are going on. It's so much fun, and we're going to get into it over the next hour plus. Remember to follow all of IE Sports Radio on X, IG, Facebook, and TikTok at IE Sports Radio. If you missed any part of this podcast, or you just want to hear me talk about it again, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all those fun things. Each show here has our own page, so go to iesportsradio.com/New York State of Sports. Learn more about me, learn more about the show. As we hit our 61st episode, the Roger Maris episode, if you will. You can also follow me on X at Rickinator555 or the show at NY State Sports IE. Thank you for all those who followed along with our live tweeting during Game 5 of the Yankees Saturday night. That was memorable. We tried to live tweet what was a memorable night in New York sports last night. You had Game 6 of the Mets, Jets Sunday Night Football, and Liberty Game 5 all at the same time. I tried to keep you up to date with as much of that as possible. I don't really have 3 TVs where I am, so yes, streaming helps, but try to bounce around as much as I can. But for those who did follow around, thank you. We'll try to bring some of that back during the World Series, which will begin on Friday, and we'll do a little bit of a preview of that. I do want to try to do a special World Series preview episode where we can dive into everything X's and O's with the Yankees and Dodgers. So we'll mostly look back at some things today, because I do want to kind of do a look back at the LCSs that were before we do a dive ahead. We have plenty of time before we get to Friday to do that. But first, let's hear from our sponsors, Planet Jerky, Seal the New Wax Seals. Hear more from Larry B about what IE Sports Radio has to offer, and we will be right back in just a minute.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And of course, thanks to our sponsors, Planet Jerky, Seal the Deal Wax Seals. Planet Jerky is a great snack to enjoy during football Sunday, the World Series, all the great sporting events going on. If you just want to plan an NBA opening night party this week, that's always some fun. Seal the Deal Wax Seals, of course, for all your events, weddings, invitations, all those cool things. And of course, IE Sports Radio, we got shows, pages for every show. And make sure to go to YouTube, subscribe, and you get all the notifications for all of our shows that are live on YouTube Monday, every day of the week, including this show. So be sure to check all that out today. So we're going to lead with the Yankees. Of course, as I mentioned, first World Series appearance since 2009, a dramatic series in Cleveland. And first off, props to the Cleveland Guardians. I was talking with Show the Land host Jen B over the weekend, and those two teams put on an absolute theater. We'll get into the NLCS a little bit later, and that was not that much drama because a lot of the games were lopsided. These last three games in particular, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, put you on the edge of your seat with every pitch, with every play, every hit. And that's what playoff baseball is about. The unpredictability, the anything can happen kind of moment. And one hit here, one strikeout here, and we could look at things completely different. But this Yankee team found a way to get it done when it needed to. And you could make a thing like, oh, it's the AL Central. Yes, that they're 7-2, but they played the Royals and the Guardians. But that's the path that the Yankees got. And they would be ripped handily if they didn't take advantage of it. And it all started really, it culminated with Game 5 Saturday night, which the Yankees got down early 2-0. Carlos Rodon, I thought, was okay. Cleveland just got a couple of big hits when they needed them. But the decision by Tanner Bybee to throw a 3-2 pitch to Giancarlo Stanton in the strike zone with a base open and Jazz Chisholm on deck, it's going to haunt Stephen Vogt for a long time. And Stanton crushes a home run, ties the game at 2. Both teams have chances late. They can't take advantage. And then Juan Soto sums up thanks to a Cleveland error, 2 on, 2 out in the 10th against Hunter Gaddis. And I tweeted here on the account, I said, this is Juan Soto's moment. Or, well, if there was a time for Soto to have a moment, it would be right now. And he fights off a couple of foul balls from Gaddis and some off-speed pitches, gets a 1-2 fastball up in the zone, and then absolutely crushes it to dead center, a 3-run homer. And that's when you knew it was over. I mean, that's when you knew that, look, the Yankees have to pay Juan Soto this offseason. That moment is going to be with Yankee fans for a long time. And it's a flair for the dramatic. Juan Soto knows how to come up big in these situations from his time with the Nationals when he was playing in the World Series at 19 years old. I mean, that's what he is. And you look at this team, we mentioned that the Yankees stars hadn't come through to win this series. Well, they did. The Yankees hit 10 home runs in the ALCS. 9 of them are from Stanton, Soto, and Judge. So think about it. A team that dominated a Cleveland team that lacks offense and lacks power in particular. The Yankees out-homered them, but with 3 guys. The Yankees drove in 25 runs in this series. 19 of them are from Stanton, Soto, and Judge. And that's your offense. And sometimes in the October, your stars have to deliver in the brightest stage, and they did that. And I'm going to give some love mainly to Giancarlo Stanton, who has taken a lot of beatings from Yankee fans, boos, heckling, everything. And he has been an absolute pro being in New York. And I'm not talking about always coming through in the moment. I'm talking about not letting those kind of things get to him, not having an outrage with the media, not having a tirade or avoiding making comments. Like, he is just an absolute pro. And you see how his teammates feel about him with the MVP chants on the podium in Cleveland when he won ALCS MVP, to quotes that Alex Verdugo and Anthony Volpe and those guys view him as the second captain on this team. How Aaron Judge looks to Giancarlo Stanton for tips. And Stanton had only 4 hits in the series. They all were home runs. He's got 5 home runs in the postseason. He has 16 career postseason home runs. That's more than Babe Ruth. Now, I know that there's more rounds now, and that changes a lot of things, but you're definitely looking at a guy that's starting to enhance his Hall of Fame candidacy a little bit. And that might be far-fetched to say because he's battled so many injuries here. He can't run the way he used to. He's definitely a different player, but he has a flair for the dramatic. And for every ground out that he doesn't get to first base, he'll crush one 117 miles an hour off the bat, and he'll do it on the brightest lights and the biggest stage. When you look at the home run in Game 5, the home run off Cade Smith early in that Game 4 that made it 6-2, the 3-run homer. In Game 3 in particular, when the Yankees were trailing, facing Emmanuel Clase, the best closer in baseball, you had Judge hit a 2-run homer. You had Stanton then follow it up with a solo shot. The Yankees rarely lose games that Judge and Stanton homer in. They did that night in a weirdest fashion. But still, Stanton found a way to deliver. And now he gets to go back to California for the World Series, his hometown, and he usually plays well out there. Game 1 of the World Series is Friday. That's Juan Soto's birthday. So Juan Soto's going to want to have some flair in Los Angeles. But I want to give some love to Stanton because Soto and Judge get a lot of the attention here, but this Yankee offense is nowhere without Stanton. And now he gets a chance to be in the World Series. And quite frankly, I hope the Yankees do win it all, but they win it for him. He is having it's not quite an A-Rod 2009 playoffs, but it's pretty darn close. And he's kind of taken a lot of the pressure off of Aaron Judge, who hasn't had the greatest postseason. But Stanton and Soto have kind of helped mask that to a degree. So those big three are getting it done. In terms of my takeaways from the ALCS, we talked about the battle of the bullpens. Yankee bullpen was better. And I don't think the Yankee fan would have thought that going in. When you look at a Cleveland bullpen with Smith and Herron and Gaddis in Class A, it was the best bullpen in baseball. And the Yankees, the goal was to beat the Cleveland starters so you wouldn't have to face the bullpen. It was the Cleveland starters did okay. Gavin Williams only won a couple innings in Game 4. You had Matt Boyd shut him down in Game 3, but the Yankees were able to at least get to Cleveland early in the series. But most of the big hits the Yankees had in the rallies and all those things came against the Cleveland bullpen. And you look at this team, the way they lost Game 3, where Big Christmas hits a 2-run homer off Weaver to David Fry walking off Clay Holmes in the 10th. And that was a pit in your stomach to lose that game. And even though the Yankees are up 2-1, it almost like it felt an opportunity slipping away. Weird things happen in Cleveland in the Yankees in postseason lore. Go back to 1997 with Mo. Go back to the midges with Jabba. Oscar Gonzalez walks it off against Clark Schmidt 2 years ago. Like, the weird things happen in the postseason there. But for the Yankees to rally and win the next 2 games really speaks to the resilience that this club has and that they've battled the ups and downs. But the Yankee bullpen, as I mentioned, was really good. And you look at the unsung heroes from the last 2 days. Mark Leiter wasn't even on the postseason roster. He replaced Ian Hamilton, who got hurt in Game 3, and Leiter was called on to get big outs, and he got them. Tim Hill, who came from Adam Karnick's White Sox, who was an afterthought, pitched all 5 games as the big lefty specialist for the Yankees, and he got big out after big out after big out, and really was a weapon that Aaron Boone could use out of the bullpen. Jake Cousins, the last 2 days, Cousins threw him with almost 30, I think over 30 pitches both days. Another guy coming from those darn White Sox, and he stepped up. I mean, he got big outs. You look at Luke Weaver, who has been a dream closer for this team. He has found different ways to get it done. And this is the bullpen that was maligned during the year, was ripped for not striking people out, was ripped for not getting big outs. How can you trust this team? Tommy Kahnle's throwing all changeups. Clay Holmes had some rough moments in Cleveland, but overall, I think you have to feel decent about Clay Holmes going into this World Series. And the Yankee bullpen was really good. Gleyber Torres at a leadoff spot had some good moments. Anthony Rizzo finally back in the lineup. And while his defense is still very subpar compared to what it used to be, he got some big hits. You saw Oswaldo Cabrera make good plays at first base. You saw Anthony Volpe putting good swings together, having good at-bats. I mean, yes, the big three drove in all the runs, but you saw the little role players getting hits. Alex Verdugo having somewhat of a decent series and getting some moments. So got to give props to Aaron Boone, too, for pushing the right buttons in this series. I mean, really, he hasn't made a lot of mistakes. He has pushed every right button. The only mistake I thought he made in Game 3 was warming up Holmes and not pitching him against Noel when Weaver clearly didn't have his changeup. But, I mean, you could forgive that to an extent. So, props to the New York Yankees. They got it done, and we will await the Dodgers on Friday. Let's look at some comments real quick. Adam saying, go Anthony Rizzo, win that second ring. And I talked about it this week, and I want to throw this out to you guys as well. Over the next hour, we can talk about this. I threw this out to our IE Sports Radio family last night when the World Series matchup was getting finalized. Who is the most likable player in this World Series? Because you have 2 big markets. You have 2 fan bases that are either liked or hated. There's no in between. Like, you either love the Yankees, you hate the Yankees. You either love the Dodgers, you hate the Dodgers. So it's clear, like, I'm not sure really what to look at with this. And I threw out this response, and I didn't know really what to get from it. So I'm curious to see what you guys think at home. And Adam said that's crazy to Rizzo's glove as abandoned. He was as solid as defensive first base as you could hope for in Chicago. I think a lot of it age, Adam, and I think a lot of it, I mean, obviously he dealt with the concussion last year. It's a different type, but he's a leader in that clubhouse for sure. I think it's hard to ignore the impact Anthony Rizzo has had. Ralph is in the house. Yes, so as we get into the Mets real quick, I went to Game 5 Friday night along with Ralph, so we had a little IE Sports Radio, not reunion, but meetup, if you will. And I gotta tell you, Game 5 was like an absolute party at Citi Field. It felt like, even though it kind of was, I didn't think the Mets would complete the comeback. So it kind of felt like, you know what, this team got the send-off from the fans that it deserved. This team got the celebration of what they were as a unit all season long. And just the way the Yankees were beating up on the Dodgers left and right. Jack Flaherty doesn't strike anybody out. Mets are the first team since 2002 to go a whole game without striking out in the postseason. Just the collective effort and just the vibe between the Temptations singing My Girl before the game, Lindor's walk-up song, to Edwin Diaz's entrance in the 8th inning for 6 outs, to Pete Alonso's 3-run homer in the first inning, really getting the buzz going. So I hadn't been to a playoff game in a long time, and for that moment, albeit that the Mets didn't win the series, it was still a hell of a game and a hell of a series for sure. So Mets losing 6 games, it wasn't shocking last night. Sean Manaea didn't have it anymore. And to be fair to Sean Manaea, that was his 36th start of the season for a guy that isn't used to that kind of a workload. So I can't put it all on him. Dodgers got to him early. Tommy Edman won the NLCS MVP, and Dodgers just seem to find guys like Tommy Edman and turn him into stars. It's really unbelievable what this team does. And it speaks to really the job that Dave Roberts and Andrew Friedman and that Dodgers front office has done. Because I think you look at for the Mets and why they lost the series. To me, it's more just the Dodgers had a more complete lineup, no easy outs in that team. Like, you go 1 through 9, I can't find an easy out in that Dodger lineup right now. Between Teoscar Hernandez, the impact he's had, you saw Andy Pages hit 2 homers in Game 5, Will Smith, Kike Hernandez, Max Muncy gets on base every at-bat. 1 through 9, they're as tough a lineup as you've seen in a long time. And then you look at the bullpen. The Dodgers threw a bullpen game last night. They're throwing arms left and right. And Evan Phillips has been good. Blake Treinen's been as dominant as I've seen him. And I used to cover him with the Nationals. He never looked like this. Between Kopech, Brazier, you have guys with LA. And look, they're doing this with 3 starters, really. Yamamoto, Flaherty, and Buehler. And they're in the World Series. And the Mets starters that were the strength of this team, Severino had a start in Game 3. Quintana did not look good in Game 4. And the Mets, if they were going to win this series, they were going to get length from their starting pitching, would be the way they did it. David Peterson looked okay in Game 5 for a guy who hadn't started in a while. But if the Mets were going to try to win this series with what was left of their bullpen, and you kind of saw that last night, Mendoza going to Edwin Diaz in the 4th inning because he had to keep the deficit the way it was. Diaz pitched 2 good innings. Ryan Stanek had nothing left after throwing 31 pitches 2 days ago, getting 7 outs. The Dodgers bullpen was deeper. But that still doesn't take away from like a performance like Mark Vientos, who had a 2-run homer last night, breaks the Mets postseason record for most RBIs in a single playoffs with 14. The problem with the Mets was they couldn't get the big hits when it mattered. And they left 13 runners on base last night. In their 4 losses in the NLCS, they went 2 for 26 with men in scoring position. And they had so many chances last night. Jeff McNeil was up a bases load in the 3rd. He struck out. Jesse Winker was up a base load in the 6th. He flew out to left. And I look at what the decisions Mendoza made in this series between starting JD Martinez in Game 3 and in Game 4 when Jesse Winker was having an impact at DH. I don't get the need to put Martinez in that spot. We talked about last week the move to put Kodai Senga starting Game 1 when they pitched Senga last night because they really had nothing else left. But there was really Kodai Senga shouldn't have been on this roster. You look at a guy like Jeff McNeil, who give him credit for coming back, but I'd rather have seen Iglesias and I'd rather have seen Acuna, because I don't think Jeff McNeil was ready for this kind of moment after being out for so long. And you give him credit for fighting back and getting onto the roster itself. Same thing with Senga. But the Mets did a lot of this damage without those guys. And now you're plugging them back in. It gets a little tricky. It's not why they lost the series. I'm not going to say that at all, but it does make some kind of impact. But look, if you're a Mets fan out there, not that you should be celebrating today. You have every right to be disappointed. But the magic that this team provided, the great moments, whether it was the comeback in Atlanta, the Pete Alonso home run in Milwaukee in the wild card game in Game 3, the beating the Phillies in 4, the magic against the Game 5 we talked about against the Dodgers, the Entos grand slam in Game 2 in LA that tied the series at 1. This team gave you a foundation, and you look at the goal for Steve Cohen. The goal for Steve Cohen is to bring a sustainable winner to the Mets. It's not to have one and done and to then stink for the next 3-4 years and not create a foundation. They want to build a winner. They want to build through the farm system, but they also want to build through free agency. And they're in good step one of that. Carlos Mendoza's done a really good job in year 1. I think any Met fan that thinks that he can't be a good manager is crazy. He believes in his players. The players believe in him. And that's a heck of a run that he had. David Stearns, first year as president, got a lot of those one-year signings right. And I think now that you look we can dive to 2025 for the next couple of months, but a very brief look ahead. They're going to lose a lot of pitching free agents between Severino. Manaya's got an opt-out he's going to definitely take. Quintana. So now you got to maybe replace 3/5 of that rotation. What happens with Pete Alonso, who I think basically recovered a lot of his stock in the postseason? Do they try to make a run at Juan Soto? I think they will. But the problem with making a run at Soto is you have so many needs. Can they afford to put $600 million in one guy and miss out on the other in 3 of those 5 things? I'm not so sure what they could do. But time is going to tell what the Mets decide to do. They can go in so many different directions, but they are clearly a contender in the NL East next year. They are clearly a team to be reckoned with. They need to add to this bullpen for sure, because Mendoza needs more reliable arms there. But all in all, not a bad performance. Again, a moment that you should really celebrate if you're a Mets fan. And like I said, the party that this team brought to the fan base is something that you should really be happy about going forward. There's a lot to be excited about. So like I said, we'll look ahead more to the World Series next week. Well, not next week, but later this week. I think it's pretty even. Dodgers took 2 out of 3 from the Yankees back in June. But remember, those games were without Juan Soto for the Yankees. So I don't really know how much you can take from that necessarily. I think it's just a 6-7 game series. And really, the series could turn in game 1, which it looks like it would be against Yamamoto. And Yamamoto, of course, everybody knows the Yankees tried to get him. That didn't happen. When you look at even going for Ohtani, the fact that the Yankees tried to get Ohtani once and Ohtani wouldn't take the meeting. You have Freddie Freeman, Giancarlo Stanton, Mookie Betts, Aaron Judge. The names of stars in this series is incredible. And I think Fox loves this World Series. They're going to get a ton of ratings from it. And I think what's going to come down to is really the bullpens for both these teams. They're going to need some big outs. And I think that's where the Yankees starting pitching, we said the Mets starting pitching had to match, and they did not. The Yankees starting pitching has to. And that relies not just on Cole, but Rodon, who was dominant in game 1 against Cleveland, but in game 5. And Clark Schmidt, who has not finished 5 innings in each of his first 2 starts in the playoffs. He's going to have to get through 5, maybe even get into the 6th and kind of give the Yankees some length whenever that is. So, again, props to both New York teams. Yankees are in the World Series. Mets, well, they are in a substitute, just a good year that they're out of going forward. So let's take our first break. We'll come back. We'll talk some football. And as much as we're happy about the New York teams in baseball, the football teams, well, they've got a lot of bigger questions to answer. And we'll talk about that next. You're listening to New York State Sports and IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all those sports. We'll be right back in just a minute.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph Calise, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate, diehard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports. And I will update you on all that's black and gold, and have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Calise, the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
What's good, everyone? It's Drosky, the host of Heart of Texas Sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. On this station, we cover everything in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. From where we cover the Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas Stars, Dallas Mavericks, Dallas Wings, Texas Rangers, TCU, SMU, we cover it all right here every Wednesdays from 9 to 10 p.m. Central Time. Make sure you stay live with me on the Heart of Texas Sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Welcome back here at New York State of Sports, IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all of the sports. Ricky K back with you. We just talked about the Yankees advancing to the World Series, the Mets' birth, a chance of the World Series coming to an end, as that would have been fun to have a Subway Series here in New York, but it comes up just a bit short. But the baseball teams had some success or having success. The football teams, back to their usual mediocrity. Let's start with the Jets, who dropped yet another game, their fourth in a row. We weren't here Monday night when they lost to Buffalo and ruined what would have been a great day in New York sports. The Devils won, the Mets had won, the Yankees had won, the Islanders had won, the Rangers had won. The Jets had to go ruin everything, which they usually do. And last night in Pittsburgh, and what was a must-win, I think, for this team, they get up 15-6 early. Breece Hall starts to get going. The offense is clicking. Hall's had a nice screen pass that went for 50 yards. Jeff Ulbrich drops the challenge flag instead of throwing the challenge flag, but they get a touchdown out of it anyway. They go for 2 because the Steelers have a special teams penalty. And then everything just unraveled. Aaron Rodgers throws a pick. Pittsburgh drives down the field, gets a touchdown. Russell Wilson to George Pickens. Third quarter, Jets are down 1. Aaron Rodgers throws a ball. Garrett Wilson drops it. Steelers pick it off. They go all the way down to the 1. They get another touchdown. And it was just that was the moment of that game. And it's hard to not look at this Jet team and wonder what the heck is going on. Breece Hall gets 12 carries for 38 yards. They've got to get more balance in this offense. They're just not getting it. I mean, I know Hall had 6 catches for over 100 yards. But they have to find balance, and it can't just be Aaron Rodgers throws it to his buddy Davante Adams. Adams tied with 9 targets last night. He had 3 catches for 30 yards, tied with Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson for the most targets. But, I mean, the question is, can Davante Adams and Hassan Reddick really change things? Now, the news yesterday was Hassan Reddick is with the Jets. He signed a restructured contract. The Jets are waiving those $12 million in fines, which, again, I thought those fines were not supposed to get waived. Did Hassan Reddick really lose anything by holding out? I don't think so. And it was going to be really tough. I know that the Jets gave him permission to seek a trade, but if the Jets trade into an NFC team, the Eagles would have got a second-round pick in 26. No AFC team would want to pick him up knowing the Jets were kind of stuck in that situation. So they're really between a rock and a hard place. I think Adams can have an impact on the offense, but I can't expect him to be that game changer that he was with the Packers. He's still really good. He still can affect the game, but really it comes down to, can the Jets offensive line, which actually did good yesterday. They only allowed Rodgers to get sacked once. So against a Pittsburgh front that can get after the quarterback, I thought they did okay. Reddick is going to help because the Jets defense is a mess. They allowed 31 unanswered points. The Steelers were able to run the ball for over almost 150 yards. Najee Harris, 21 carries, 102 yards to score. This is a Steeler offense that really could not get going. There were calls for maybe to bring Justin Fields back about a quarter and a half through this game. And Wilson only completed 16 passes, but he threw for over 260 yards. He was hitting deep balls left and right in this game, to whether it was to Pickens or Freiermuth had 2 big plays, had a 30-yard catch and a 21-yard catch. Just the amount of big plays that Jets defense is allowed. And they took a lot of hits yesterday. The secondary, Tony Adams and Ashton Davis going out with some injuries. I mean, that's some big news for the Jets, because they can't afford more injuries on this defense. And you're clearly seeing them missing Jermaine Johnson, because outside of Will McDonald, there's not a second pass rusher out there. Russell Wilson only got sacked once last night. And you're clearly also seeing Jeff Ulbrich having to call plays while help the defense while also being the head coach. That's not an easy thing. You look at a Jet team that on offense goes 3 for 10 on third down. They did correct the penalties to some extent. They had only 5 last night after having double digits on Monday against the Bills. But Pittsburgh as a team just had more big plays in this game. And for a Jet defense to give as much as they did was really shocking. And Ralph said, I guess Tomlin knows his stuff, can't really doubt. Look, any team that has Mike Tomlin as a coach should be thrilled. I mean, he gets the most out of his teams every single year. And it was clear that he, I think, wanted Russell Wilson as his guy. As good as Justin Fields was, there's a ceiling to Justin Fields. And if Russell Wilson stays upright with the Steelers offensive line, I think he can do some things. You saw that last night. Taryn, how you doing, man? Thank you for joining the show. So Jets next week will be in New England to take on the Patriots. The Jets have to win this game, period. Their best game of the year was against New England in week 3, and I know Drake May is the quarterback, but they're playing a team that their head coach called basically the defense soft yesterday. The Patriots defense faced, I think, 25 straight run plays in London. They couldn't stop the Jaguars at all. And you're looking at a defense that really is starting to call itself out. So if the Jets can't win this game, they're not winning another game. And there's no margin for error. If you look at the AFC, as weak as it is, outside of like Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, you could throw Pittsburgh in there because they've got 5 wins. The Jets can't afford to have more than 8 losses to make the playoffs. They play Houston next Thursday on Halloween at home. If they go 1-1 these next 2, that puts them at 3-6. They'd have to go 6-2 the rest of the way. They still have to play Seattle. They still have to play Miami twice, and you'd think Tua would be healthy for those games. Buffalo again on the road. They do have to go to Arizona. Again, West Coast trip. They have Indy at home, and Indianapolis somehow is 4-3. So the Jets really cannot afford to take any more losses, because if they do, it's going to get really ugly for this group. And as far as Aaron Rodgers goes, they asked him how you fix it, and he said, ignore the media. Well, when you go on the Pat McAfee show every week, you are the media. So I'm tired of hearing Aaron Rodgers basically blaming the media for everything when he controls a lot of that narrative. It really drives me nuts that he continues to do that, because he deserves a lot of blame for the struggles that are going on. And hey, maybe never take that Egypt trip next time. Maybe go to minicamp, help Garrett Wilson out, because a lot of it falls on him. The other New York team isn't looking so much better either. The Giants fall to Saquon and the Eagles 28-3. Just a really ugly football game. And the Giant defense did a pretty good job. Jalen Hurts only completed 10 passes. He only took 14 attempts. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, but they were both at the goal line. And really the difference in this game, Saquon Barkley gets a couple long runs. He had 17 carries for 176 in a touchdown, as Giant fans are burning his jersey. And look, I don't get why Giant fans are upset at Saquon, because Saquon wanted to be here. Team didn't pay him. So the team doesn't pay him, and he goes to, I get you're upset he goes to Philly, but it's not like Saquon Barkley turned down more money from the Giants to go play for the Eagles. So at that point, to me, he's got to get over it. But he was strong. Jalen Hurts had a 4th down throw to A.J. Brown for a touchdown that really changed the tenor of this game. Brown had only 48 yards in his other 4 catches. It was really just that one play. And the problem for the Giants, look, without Andrew Thomas, they cannot protect the quarterback. Daniel Jones got sacked 7 times yesterday. They couldn't get anything going on the ground, even with the return of Devin Singletary. Malik Neighbors was back. He had 4 catches for 41 yards. Neighbors and Robinson had 17 of the Giants' 27 targets. But again, this offense, and to me, it doesn't matter who plays quarterback. They're 3 for 14 on 3rd down. It was just an absolute mess and no consistency. Daniel Jones got pulled in the 4th quarter. Brian Dable was saying it was trying to make a spark. I don't know what spark you're trying to get. Drew Lock was 3 of 8 for 6 yards, and he took a sack. To me, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. The offensive line, without its best player, Andrew Thomas, is going to have struggles. And I think the only risk you have now is Daniel Jones' injury guarantees in his contract. And at some point, Daniel Jones is going to lose his job because the Giants don't want to lose that money. It's not going to be because he is necessarily losing the job. He's just not put in the right places. And to me, that the microscope goes on Joe Schoen. I mean, we talk about Brian Dable calling plays all along, and he's okay with it. He took a lot of chances against the Bengals, but this game, the Giants weren't competitive. And now it's time for Joe Schoen, really. When you look at this team at 2-5, they play the Steelers next week on Monday Night Football. Then they play the Commanders the week after. If they lose both these games, they're 2-7 going into the trade deadline, and they're going to have to look to maybe see what they can get for Darius Slayton or Ojulari on that defensive line. Try to use some of that depth. Giants' defensive line has been one of the best teams in terms of sacking the quarterback, and their offense is not getting wins from it. So to answer Adam's question, do the Giants move on from Daniel Jones? Look, the answer is yes. They're going to move on from him next year. To me, it's probably sooner you move on from him and just let Drew Lock play, but I don't think Drew Lock is going to be the answer and all of a sudden fix this offense. Like, you're just going to a temporary solution that maybe he steals a game or 2. Like, you look at the Giants' schedule, the only wins I can really see on this going forward is maybe the Panther game in Germany, which, of course, we got to send these 2 bad teams to Germany. Maybe New Orleans at home if Carr's not right. But you look at the schedule, like Tampa, they still have the Ravens, they still have Thanksgiving with the Cowboys, they still have Philly, they still have Atlanta. Find me wins in this Giants schedule that they're going to get. And remember, John Mara probably wasn't happy that Saquon Barkley ran a rough shot on the Giants yesterday. And Joe Schoen could say all he wants about saving money, but if the owner wanted that guy, and that guy embarrassed you yesterday, the GM is going to be now under the microscope. It's his rebuild he has to fix. And it starts with nailing draft picks. It starts with getting this team back to respectability, because both these New York Football GMs, between Shane, I think Shane is a little more rope than Joe Douglas, because the Jets, if this thing implodes, Joe Douglas is gone. They've already cleared the head coach. They're going to probably clear the GM next, because that has been a rough thing in Florham Park, and it's a rough thing for the Giants as well. They're not. We talk about the respectability they put against Dallas. Didn't make a play here or there. The Cincinnati game, they had a shot to win. Yesterday, they had no shot to win that game. They were out of it from the minute that game kicked off. And against a division rival like that, that can't happen. So we'll take another break. We'll do our big grab bag episode, or great big grab bag segment, which is going to go definitely past the 1 o'clock hour, but that's why we're here. We're going to, of course, lead with the Liberty capturing that WNBA championship in the dramatic fashion they did last night. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the hockey teams, basketball getting underway, soccer playoffs, all those things coming up next here on New York State Sports and IE Sports Radio, direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Law.
And we're the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys spending time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS. The SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Ricky K back with you on IE Sports Radio, New York State Sports on the network, your direct feed for all that is sports. Before we get into the Liberty, some quick things. Justin Adams thing. Brian Dable actually just said a few minutes ago, Daniel Jones will be the quarterback Monday in Pittsburgh. Oof, that's not going to be fun. He also asked, when did the Jets clear the deck of players this offseason? Look, they went for it for this year. I mean, Reddick's going to be a free agent. They're going to have to pay Garrett Wilson at some point. They're going to have to pay Breece Hall at some point. They took some chances with some veteran offensive linemen. Again, a long way to go, but I'm not ruling them out, especially since their schedule. They don't have to make one more West Coast trip. Their schedule does get a little bit lighter, but at 2-5, you have to think you have to get to 9 wins to have a shot at the playoffs, which means they have to go 7-3 the rest of the way. It's doable if they can find some chemistry, find some connection, but right now it's hard to see that. And I think that's where they have to win these next 2 games. They should beat New England, but the Houston game on Halloween at home really is going to determine this team's season, whether it goes one way or the other. So we go to the New York Liberty, and Taryn, of course, leads it off. Congrats on winning the WNBA championship. We'll get to that Dodger stuff later because I would love to have you on, Taryn, so we can preview this World Series. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll maybe do that toward the end of this week. But congratulations to the New York Liberty. 28 years they've waited for this moment, and an original franchise, as Ryan Ruocco greatly called, finally gets its moment, a WNBA title. And I know a lot of people looked at that Game 5, and it was a really good defensive performance. But this series for the WNBA was probably the best it could hope for. 5 memorable games between the Lynx coming back in Game 1 to Sabrina Ionescu's crazy game winner in Game 3. Minnesota hangs on to win Game 4. That gets the Game 5 last night. And yes, it went up against Sunday Night Football. And yes, it went up against a Game 6 in baseball. But the crowd at Barclays was incredible. The atmosphere was great. Superstars in the stands, all those things. The Lynx get up 12. The Liberty can't hit a shot. Sabrina Ionescu is having her version of John Starks. She went 1 for 19 from the floor in this game. 1 for 10 from 3. The Liberty as a team went 2 for 23 from beyond the arc. That's 9%. The Lynx were 3 for 19. So both these teams combined to make 5 threes on 42 attempts. But the defense just showed up in any which way. And I thought that's what made this moment special for this group, is that it found a way to win. Look, all the pressure was on the Liberty last night. The Lynx had a really good year. They beat the Liberty in the Commissioner's Cup. You look at a Liberty team that went 32-8 in the regular season, had only lost 3 playoff games on this run. And when you bring Brianna Stewart in, when you bring Jonquel Jones in, when you bring Courtney Vandersloot in, when you lose in the heartbreaking fashion they did a year ago to Vegas in the finals, you have to win this one. And Sandy Brondello, who now got her second championship as a coach with 2 different franchises, they knew how big this moment was. When you look at last night, the stars were the role players for the Liberty. Jonquel Jones is she's a star, but she's not quite the brand name that Ionescu is or Stewie is. But Jonquel Jones had 17 points, 6 rebounds. She was really a difference maker early in the year because the offense ran through her. And she was a presence in the paint. She helped get Nafisa Collier in foul trouble because Collier was doing really good for the Lynx in the first half. Her and Kayla McBride, I thought, really kept them in the game. So you look at Jones, and you also look at a player like Niara Sabally, who the Liberty brought in as a player who can help their defense, especially in the front court. She battled injuries the bulk of the year. And for this moment, she had her best game as a Liberty last night. 13 points, 7 rebounds, 17 minutes, 5 of 7 from the floor. She had the big steal in overtime. Remember, the game went to OT because Brianna Stewart hits 2 free throws with 3 seconds left. And I know you could say that's not a foul. If that was called a non-foul on the court, I don't think you can argue that. It was really close. If you're a Lynx fan, you probably hate that the whistle kind of got there and Stewie got a chance to make 2 after she missed 2 free throws 2 minutes prior. Game goes to OT. Phoebus hits a 3. Sabally gets a steal. They get up 5, and the crowd just got right back into it. So if you told me at the beginning of the game that Ionescu and Stewart were going to combine to shoot 5 of 34, that the Liberty were going to win this game, I wouldn't believe you. And it speaks to legacy for both of these players. We'll start with Brianna Stewart, who she's a winner. Whether it's time in Connecticut, she's won 3 WNBA championships. This is a player that just knows how to win. She averaged 28 in the regular season. She averaged nearly a double-double in the playoffs, 19 and 9. She makes great plays defensively. I mean, when you look at her numbers last night, she had 15 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, 3 block shots. And she was getting those big defensive stops when they needed. And that's what's great about both these players is when they weren't making shots, they were doing assists, they were getting steals, they were getting blocks, they were all doing the little things. And you look at Sabrina Ionescu, who came here, #1 draft pick. The Liberty were at its low point. Keep in mind, a couple years ago, they're playing games in Westchester. This is a franchise that used to play games at Madison Square Garden. And for Sabrina Ionescu to come here along with Benijah Laney Hamilton and essentially change this franchise. I mean, that's what she was. Caitlin Clark before Caitlin Clark. When the Liberty drafted her, it kind of brought more relevance to this team. And she has taken the mantle and absolutely run with it. She is so much fun to watch. She hits big shots. She, I think, really knows how to be a leader. And I think she's developed into a leader. You saw that early in the year. Remember, we talked about when New York played Indiana, it was Caitlin Clark reaching out to Sabrina Ionescu on how to handle the pressure and how to handle being the #1 draft pick and how to go about your business. She averaged 18-4 this year, 6 assists in the postseason, 17 points, 5 assists. She's only 26 years old. I mean, Brianna Stewart helped her reach this goal, but Sabrina Ionescu has a chance to really be up there as one of the best New York athletes, and she is that good. So, again, congratulations to New York Liberty, a hell of a run. And Sandy Brundelli even said it, why not go for a repeat? Now, who knows what this team will look like next year? I mean, Vegas is always a threat. Minnesota, hell of an effort. Yeah, but this team came in with a mission, came in with unfinished business, and they're not only going to get one ticker tape parade, they're going to get 2. There is a talk that there's going to be a parade not only in Manhattan, but also in Brooklyn as well. And I love what Holly Rose said last night. Last night's game was a win for women's basketball. I mean, that kind of game puts WNBA on the map because you can have a competitive series like that. So props to both teams, props to the Liberty. It's been so much fun covering this team all year long. And look, I finally get to cover a championship. Like what New York has done over the last couple of months with all the winning and all the postseason games and all the drama, it has been so much fun, to say the least. So congratulations to the Liberty on this run. So now we get into some teams that are starting their seasons. We'll go to the NHL mainly to start. And the New York Rangers are off to a really good start. They are 4-0-1 in their first 5 games. They did have the loss to Utah the other day, or last week when we talked about it, but they swept the Red Wings. Artemi Panarin had a hat trick the other day. He was really good for the Rangers. They beat the Red Wings 4-1 at home on Monday. Then they won 5-2 Detroit on Thursday. And Saturday night in Toronto, Igor Shesterkin with 34 saves. Chris Kreider gets a pair of goals. Alexis Lafreniere has been really good in the early going. He's got 3 goals on the year. Panarin's got 6. Kreider's got 5. So the stars are starting to shine for the Rangers. And we saw this last year. They got off to an early, great start. But their season is going to be defined by the playoffs. But to win the way they have, and they've basically been scoring, with the exception of, actually, they've scored, I think, over 4 goals in every game. So this offense is really clicking for the Rangers early on. Now, they'll play Montreal on Tuesday. They'll play the Panthers in an Eastern Conference Final rematch Thursday at home. And then they have the Ducks at home on Saturday night. You look at the Devils, they have scored 3+ goals in 4 of their last 5 games. Now, they took a tough loss Saturday night against the Capitals, 6-5 in overtime. They did get a point. Devils have played more games because of the Prague series, but they have 27. They have scored the most goals of any team in the NHL so far. So their offense is definitely there. And you look at this New Jersey team, Sheldon Keefe has got it rolling. They're 5-2-1. Nico Hischier with 2 more goals Saturday night. He's got 5 on the season. Dougie Hamilton tied it with a power play goal with 8 minutes to go in the third, but then Tom Wilson won it at OT for Washington. They had the 3-1 win over Ottawa last Thursday. Markstrom had 30 saves. Paul Cotter has been a nice surprise for New Jersey. He has had 5 goals early. New Jersey takes on the Lightning on Tuesday. They will go to Detroit on Thursday. They will play the Islanders, first New York, New Jersey matchup of the year on Friday at home, and then they will host Anaheim on Sunday before going out on the West Coast. Meanwhile, a thrilling shootout on Saturday, and that's another game that kind of got lost in the shuffle with the Yankee game. The Islanders were taking on the Montreal Canadiens at UBS Arena. It went to the 9th round in a shootout. But Noah Dobson got the winner, a 4-3 victory for the Islanders. They are 2-1-2 to begin the year. Anders Lee had a goal in the third period. Kyle Palmieri had a goal early. And you look at this Islander team, again, not a bad start. Now, they did take a little bit of a hit. Anthony Duclair has a injury that Lou Lamoriello said is not season-ending, but it's not short-term either. So how did this Islander team respond without Duclair, who was their big offseason acquisition? They didn't really change much outside of that. Now, I really love what they did, though, earlier in the week. They went to Colorado. Patrick Waugh returned. Brock Nelson had 2 goals. Absolutely dominated an Avalanche team that's off to a rough start. They won 6-2. And then a good performance on Thursday. I know they didn't win, but they lost 1-0 in overtime. But Ilya Sorokin, who's had a lot of the microscope on him early, he had 29 saves. He has looked good in net through the first couple. Varlamov got the start the other night. But I don't think you could really complain much about the Islanders early. They do have 6 points. They are playing some decent hockey. The key is just getting that offense. When they get that offense, they're going to be fine. Outside of the Utah loss, really, they were shut out, and they've been shut out in both their losses so far. Score goals, you might have a shot at winning. Islanders are home to Detroit Tuesday. Remember, it's the Frozen Frenzy, so everybody plays on Tuesday. They'll be at New Jersey on Friday, and then hosting hosting Florida on Saturday as the Panthers. Remember, they have the Rangers and the Islanders this week. Move on to some college football. Most of the locals Syracuse is off this week, but we get a chance now to look ahead to a really important game. The ACC is wide open in college football. College football as a whole, I want to say, is wide open because you saw Georgia beat down Texas the other day, and I said it in our IE Sports Radio chat. I don't know if you can pick a favorite right now for the national championship. Like, I think it's that wide open. Anybody can beat anybody, and I think that speaks to the parity with NIL and all this expanded playoffs and all these things that really changes things. So it starts Thursday Night Football this week. Syracuse is at number 19 Pitt. That's an ESPN game at 7:30. Matt Barry and Dan Mullen on the call, so that's going to be a lot of fun and a big turning point because this is where the schedule gets tough for the Pitt Panthers because they have Syracuse, and they go to SMU, who's ranked, then they host Virginia, then they host Clemson, who's ranked. The Q schedule gets tough as well. And this is a matchup with 2 really good quarterbacks. Kyle McCord, 19 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. And then Eli Holstein for Pitt has 15 touchdowns, 5 picks. So both these teams, I think the key is going to be which one establishes the run between LaQuint Allen, who's starting to find it for Syracuse, and Desmond Reed, who is the junior running back for Pitt. He had 2 touchdowns in their game 2 weeks ago against Cal. He has had 3 games over 120-plus rushing yards in his last 5. So if Pitt has that balance to go with the defense that has been rock solid for this group, they should win. Pitt is favored by 6 in that game with an over-under at 60. Right now, I think it's 61.5. So a lot of points expected Thursday night. So if you don't want to watch Vikings-Rams and you're looking for a college football game, Syracuse-Pitt just might be the game for you. And if Syracuse can win that game, right now they're 27th. They're just getting votes in the AP poll. They'll probably be ranked going into November when they play Virginia Tech, Boston College, Cal, and UConn. They play 4 straight unranked teams. So Hughes can really set up their season with a win. I remember they end the year with Miami at home. So really the sky's the limit for this Q's team if they can get a win against Pitt and really pick up 2 ranked wins where they beat UNLV earlier this year in Vegas. The team going downhill is Rutgers. Rutgers took on UCLA. It was homecoming. They had the blowout loss to Wisconsin, and they got beat by UCLA in UCLA's first Big Ten victory. I know Rutgers has had a lot of injuries, but you've got to put the blame on Greg Schiano right now. They do not have anything going. They are struggling to find momentum. They allowed Ethan Garbers and UCLA to throw for 383 yards and 4 touchdowns in this game. Rutgers was 3 of 9 on third down. They lost to a UCLA team that committed 9 penalties, and they were just playing from behind the whole day. When it looked like they were getting back into it, it was a 2-point game in the third quarter, and Garbers throws a 67-yard touchdown, allowing too many big plays. You saw that in the Wisconsin game as well. And for a Scarlet Knight team that was 4-0 and heading in the right direction, they've lost 3 straight, And now they go to USC Friday, and that's a big game for USC because they just lost to Maryland. Lincoln Riley's under the microscope out there. Larry can tell you that because this SC team is definitely wrong. And you look at Rutgers, if you want to look at bowl eligibility, because now it's in the question. They have number 6 wins get you to a bowl game. They have Minnesota, they have Maryland, they have ranked Illinois and Michigan State. So if they lose this game 4-4, they got to go 2-2 the rest of the way. That means you got to win your home games because Maryland's a tough out on the road. Michigan State is a tough out on the road. All of a sudden, Rutgers' season starting to go in the opposite direction. But it should be a fun one. So Fox gets what they want. They get Yankees, Dodgers, 8 o'clock. And then right after the game, you get the New York market and the LA market with Rutgers and USC. USC, by the way, is favored by 14.5. Yeah, not going to be a fun time. If you're allowing big plays to Locke from Wisconsin and Garbers from UCLA, Miller Moss, who has 14 touchdowns and close to 2,000 yards, could have a field day here. Rutgers is going to have to use Monangai and control the ball as much as they can to have a shot. Meanwhile, Army still ranked, still undefeated. And the story just continues for this team. They played East Carolina, and they played so well that East Carolina fired their coach. They won the game by a final of 45-28. Score was not as close as it indicated. Army had a 31-0 lead midway through the third. Bryson Daly had 6 total touchdowns, threw for 1, then ran for 5, 31 carries, 171 yards. This is the quarterback, by the way. Quarterback is running for this much. Army just is never out. They just dominate these opponents. And that's what makes this season fun because Jeff Monken's got this team absolutely rolling. They're not tested. They've won every game by double digits, it seems like. And now they get the week off. They're going to go into November with a chance to make this season really special. And Davidson, what's up, man? Hit that like, yep, hit that like button. Hit the like button on their show, too. The NBA season getting underway. And we'll talk about the NBA in a minute. But you look at Army, it's 7-0. They're off this week. They host Air Force in a big game for the Commanders Trophy, but Air Force is 1-6. They have at North Texas and then a bye week before Notre Dame at Yankee Stadium. And I mean, you look at Army's chance at a group of 5 playoff berth, they've got a shot. Them and Navy. Remember, Navy also won the other day. Navy's 6-0. Speaking of Navy, there's a big game on Saturday here at MetLife Stadium, and it is Notre Dame against Navy. Now, I don't know why this game's at MetLife, especially when it's a home game for Navy. I don't know why it's not an M&T Bank. But the Irish are 6-1. Riley Leonard's starting to play better. They got to win it in Atlanta against Georgia Tech this past week. But this is a fun college football game where if Navy can get a win and upset the Irish, they don't have a ranked team the rest of the way. So you can put Navy in the group of 5 playoff conversation with a win here. And the one guy to watch on Navy is their quarterback. We talk about Bryson Daly so much. Blake Horvath, he's a junior. He's got 10 passing touchdowns for a Navy team that doesn't really throw the ball that much. He's also rushed for 10 touchdowns. Notre Dame is favored by 11.5. I think I'd still take the Irish. I think they're starting to find things with their offense. They've scored at least 28 points in each of their last 5 games. They've recovered from that loss against Northern Illinois, but can Navy's defense get Riley Leonard to make mistakes? I think that's going to be the key in this game for sure. Now, as the hockey season gets going, the NBA season gets going on Tuesday as the Knicks will take on the Boston Celtics. This is going to be a fun year, I think, for the Knicks between the addition of Karl Anthony Towns, the addition of Mikal Bridges. Obviously, expectations are sky high, but I think the Knicks' expectations could be tempered a little bit early because they're dealing with some stuff. Precious Achiuwa is going to be out at least a month with a hamstring injury. Now, you add Achiuwa's injury to Mitchell Robinson's injury. The Knicks are missing a lot in the front court. So they're going to need a lot of Jericho Sims early to get things going. We've seen the way that you look at the injuries too. Andrew Shamet took an injury in preseason. That was a guy that was starting to shoot the ball well. And as they try to fill out the rest of this roster, what really happens from there. So the Knicks have taken a little bit of a hit with some injuries, but I think at least as long as it only affects them for the beginning of the year, their schedule, by the way, is really tough at the beginning of the season. They're at Boston tomorrow on TNT, then they're home to Indiana on Friday, and then home to Cleveland on Monday, then at Miami. I mean, that's a really tough first 4 games in the East. This is a Knicks team that has a lot of potential. It's a team that can make a push toward an Eastern Conference title. But how quick does it gel? It should gel because I think having Bridges connect with Brunson and Hart, that should be fine. It really can be how can Karl-Anthony Towns, he's looked really good this preseason, but how does the Cat addition make this offense gel? We're going to see. The Nets will begin on Wednesday, and of course, it's really a year for the Nets that they're just going to try to figure out some stuff with what the future of the roster looks like. I think if you're a Nets fan, you're going to be watching a lot of Rutgers basketball, which, by the way, that St. John's Rutgers preseason game last week was incredible. Good atmosphere. St. John's ended up winning, but you watch that game and watch Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, you can clearly see why NBA teams want these guys. They are playing extremely well. Nets fans will be watching a lot of those games. They'll be watching Cooper Flagg at Duke in terms of what they get that next star in the draft. Brooklyn is at Atlanta on Wednesday to begin the year. They're at Orlando on Friday and then home to Giannis and the Bucks on Sunday. Look, Sean Marks has to build this team from the ground up. Gets a chance to rebuild it. We'll see how it goes, but not a lot of expectations for Brooklyn going forward. We wrap it up with some soccer. Round 1 of the MLS playoffs begins this weekend. It is a best of 3. And it starts with NYCFC as the 6th seed. They will take on FC Cincinnati. Game 1 will be in Ohio. That game is on Saturday night. I'll get the time to you in just a second. Actually, it's not Saturday. It might be different. I'll pull that up here. No, so game 1 is actually Monday. So next Monday, 6:45 on FS1. Best 2 out of 3. These 2 teams have played 3 times this year. Cincinnati's won 2 of them. NYCFC won the latest matchup 3-2 on October 2nd. And the key to me in this is, can NYCFC put 2 good halves together? Cincinnati had a second half resurgence in one of these games. The Cincy team has been consistent all year long, been in the top 3 in the standings. It's going to be coming down to, can Morales and Santi Rodriguez lift this team, and can Matt Freese play well in net? Those 3 stars are going to have to be the key if NYCFC pulls this upset. I don't think they will. Game 2, by the way, is at Yankee Stadium, which will be fun, but we will see what happens there. And then the Red Bulls are going to be taking on Columbus, the Crew, in the first round. That matchup begins Tuesday, 6:45 FS1. Columbus beat the Red Bulls 3-2 on Saturday. These 2 teams have played a total of 2 times this year. Columbus has won both of those games. Crew are the defending MLS champions. This is a team that has been really consistent in these types of tournaments. So the Red Bulls have really had their play dipped. They were toward the top of the standings earlier in the year. They've dropped down to the 7th spot. They avoided that 1-game play-in to at least get a best of 3. But I think Columbus should be able to win that matchup. But at least we had MLS playoffs. At least both these teams have a chance to make a run. We'll at least get to talk about it a little bit more on the show going forward. So as we wrap up this episode, looks, again, we will look to get a show for you toward the middle of this week, previewing the Yankees and the Dodgers in the World Series. Props to the Yankees for winning another pennant, first time in 15 years. And their stars deliver. Stanton, Judge, Soto, Cole. That's going to have to be the case if they want to win a World Championship, because the Dodgers are loaded. But it's the matchup everybody's wanted. Ball classic between 2 superstars. I was saying in the chat the other day, It's the matchup we've all predicted in Sports Illustrated and every other publication for the last 10 years, and it's finally come true. But we'll see how the stars align in that series. Props to the Mets. Hell of a run. We'll see what their future looks like, but they put their fan base on a magical ride. OMG, Grimace, all those fun things they got done. But now this spotlight goes to besides the Yankees, to the football teams who are absolutely dreadful. Giants are not playing well. Jets are not playing well. And now they're going to get a lot more of the scrutiny because a lot more of the eyes are on them. Knicks start play tomorrow. Nets start on Wednesday. The hockey teams are playing pretty well. Metropolitan, 3 of the top 4. Devils, Rangers, and Islanders. So good start for the local community. The big college football game on Thursday. Pitt. Army will go into November with a shot at the playoff first. It's going to be a lot of fun. And a big game at MetLife Saturday, Notre Dame and Navy. There's only 3 ranked versus ranked. There's only 4 ranked versus ranked this week. One of them is here in New York. I'm sure to check that out. So from all of us here at the IA Sports Radio family, I'm Rick Steelers, and thanks for joining us here at NYC Sports. See you later this week. We'll look at the World Series, and we'll see you next week